So today we are on a new aim, new goal. Let's see how this session turns up. Thank you, Virender, for sparing time to join us today. This will be a recorded session and will be used for production of testimonials at YAP. So,
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah. So today we have with us Virender Bisht, co-founder and CTO of Neo, and Madhu, co-founder and CEO of YAP, and I'm Vaishali from marketing team of YAP, and I'm thankful to Virender and Madhu for joining me on this call. So before we start, I would like to give a brief introduction of Neo. So Neo started its journey in 2015, and it has been revolutionizing the banking experience for its consumers. They have products like Neo Bharat, which is making banking safe, convenient, and hassle free for blue collared employees. And on the other side of the spectrum, they have Neo Money and Neo X, which simplifies wealth management and provides saving solutions. Along with these, they have launched Neo Global Account and cards with 0% forex markup and 150 plus currency basket. And at YAP, we are really proud to be part of this amazing journey of Neo. So, Virender, at YAP, our API platform helps companies to launch their customized cards in matter of weeks. I'm curious to understand how YAP has powered you and helped you with a quick GTM.
Yeah.
Virender?
Thank you, Vishali, and thank you, Madhu, for having me here. Really glad to be amongst friends and talking about this journey that actually practically both YAP and Neo took together. We are more or less about the same age now, give and take a few months here and there. And I recollect our first discussion that happened back in 2015 when we were just starting up. And then of course we did business together, and as I said, very happy to be here, and to be discussing our journey also with you, and really couldn't be more thankful and actually incredibly lucky to have partners like you partnering in journey with us. I can say hand on heart, without a solid partner like YAP, this wouldn't have been possible for us. So more specifically, I think Neo is at the forefront of this consumer, I would say digital banking revolution that is going around. A lot of players are actually out there, including incumbent banks, including us. And I think all of us are jockeying for the same space, that the demand from consumers is there. They would like the banking to be more transparent, more seamless, more experience driven for them, just so that it is a little bit hassle free from what it used to be, and incrementally going that way. And Vaishali, as you called out, we do have our number one product is Neo Bharat, which is a salary account for the blue collar employees, and that is actually powered by YAP at the platform level. And then now we are we had this global card also, and we do have this global card. It's just because of, I think, pandemic, the business growth on that side is somewhat stunned right now. And we recently launched NeoX, which is a savings account proposition, two-in-one account actually proposition. It is savings plus wealth account proposition in partnership with Equitas Bank. So that's our the product suite that is there. With YAP, we partner at a more of a platform layer, and there are a couple of other integrations we are also working with them. And the idea there being is that while Neo, takes care of the consumer experience, much of what we are able to deliver as an end user experience to our consumers actually is powered by YAP APIs at behind the scene, which these guys are great at doing the hard work of integrating with the core banking systems, making it more easier, API friendly for the developers there, so that developers like us can innovate on the consumer end. So it's really like a ham and cheese kind of relationship, and we together go well.
Yeah, thanks, Viren. Thanks for sort of taking this time and understanding, or sort of giving your sharing your story. In fact, interesting, and I want to congratulate you for launching the product with Equitas Bank. It's phenomenal that you've been able to sort of do with a bank and putting out a product. That partnership, I know what it takes to sort of bring it to life. Congratulations to you and the team. I think you sort of steal my thunder. I wanted to say that we've been like we grew together over the last 5-6 years, like the kids going to school together and then getting into to their teens. I think both the organizations have sort of matured, individually as organizations and collectively as a team. And a couple of things I wanted to sort of use this conversation to sort of help entrepreneurs sort of come around. Because a lot of people, today India is a buzzing, ecosystem of fintech sort of entrepreneurship. A lot of companies that are getting born out every week. We'll have like few companies that are coming in and figuring out how to work with the bank, how to use our APIs, and every interactions that we have. If we go back to the same bunch of questions that we had like 5-6 years ago, right? But I wanted to sort of pick your brain in terms of how has your sort of relationship changed with bankers when you started in 2015, and how are they sort of looking at you now? Was it more of how has that relationship changed symbiotically, right? Maybe that could be a good segue to start.
Yeah. I think Madhu, you're touching upon a few questions. So let me take the last one that you asked first. I think how is the relationship between bankers, incumbent banks, decision maker at the banks, and fintech company like us, like you, and possibly like someone out there who are thinking of an idea that is growing. So definitely one thing I can say, banks right now much more receptive. They will hear you out. They will basically take a look at your use case, and to the extent possible, they will try and make your make your journey successful, which was not the case in 2015. If you talk to banks in 2015, they had a zero sum game kind of mentality. It almost used to look like from their perspective, these guys are eating away our lunch, and they are possibly innovating at our at our cost, so to say. But that mindset has changed now. I think a lot of banks that you speak with today, they will come back to you and say, and I think they have a realization also that there are tremendous forces at play, both the incumbent banks, the new age startups, also the behemoths like Amazon, Google, and others who are jockeying for the same space. So if they are not participating in this journey, they are surely going to get obliterated in that sense. So, and better partner rather than perish. I think that's a mentality, that kind of realization has taken place right now. And but I think that's possibly the message that any young entrepreneur will get by meeting the banks today. But that said, I think you are able to get your idea across, but still you have to navigate the idea of I think compliances, regulations, the data security, and stuff like that. And there is no way around those aspects as well, because as entrepreneurs you can be overtly simplifying a lot of things, but banking, there are some fiduciary responsibilities that come when you are dealing with people's money, the data and their transactions. So a lot of that is serious in nature. So in that sense, you have to be prepared to navigate those aspects. It is not as simple as basically launching any other consumer app. There are some nuances about banking, but yet it's definitely become more simpler in the last 5 years.
Yeah. I think we sort of echo that same sentiment, right? We used to sort of work with, and also the motivations at banks also have kind of changed, right? Depending on size of the bank. Earlier, it used to be if you could go to a small bank and just dangle saying, I can build this deposit for you at low cost, no expense to you. Today, same conversations with larger banks, we are actually seeing how do I make you fintech friendly? It's not even about deposits, but they want to be seen encouraging these new storefronts which are coming from companies like yours or an Amazon or a Google, and in many ways I think India has gone through the transition rather quickly. Shifting gears, this whole pandemic kind of all of us went through a period of anxiety around last year. More particularly in the two business lines that you were sort of in, right? Travel and sort of in the sort of blue collar segment, if I can call it that. How did you sort of, how as a collectively as a team, because there are a lot of aspirations and, growth sort of aspects that you would have planned for. How did you sort of, as a team, react to this, right? Because there's nothing that you could have planned for, about a year back. And looking back, how is it sort of, how have you used the downtime, when COVID hit?
Yeah. Actually, in hindsight, there are any, if I would say it's a great opportunity for young startups, for that matter, any company, a crisis is a great opportunity in the sense, to innovate themselves and really, look at what is at the core that they do. And it gives them an opportunity to reflect on that. Now, whether they take, whether they, kind of utilize that opportunity given in the best possible way, it's up to them. But in that sense, every crisis, not just this crisis, Madhu, if you go back, all the way to previous SARS episode and prior to the financial shocks that have happened in last decade or so, also, there's an opportunity that is available to, and a lot of, frivolous businesses actually just tank, and then they don't find themselves, but then, strong companies actually survive. And then I think strong companies emerge stronger after the pandemic. And I used to learn this back from at Make My Trip, and and we saw in the journey of Make My Trip, Deep Kalra, Chairman, CEO, he used to say that every cry, and we used to look at this data that after every such travel shock, the Make My Trip market share actually will increase, because they were just strong at what they were doing, and the relentless focus, and thankfully they had planned also for long term. And so we took some cues from them. So we planned for the long term. We actually, I would say, planned for, not anticipated, but we had, purely from a financial operating perspective, etc. We had shocks built in. We had shock absorber kind of built into that. So we were able to, as a company, we were able to survive that shock. I think from a business model, yes, we needed to renovate that, look at that, what we do best. So clearly, one of the direction that we have taken, Madhu, after this pandemic is largely more focus on the B2C segments, wherein we can, elasticity of demand can be controlled, fulfillment can be controlled, which is not more a function of human interaction. If you can do that, then I think it will be a great way to build a long-lasting business. That's what we feel, and we feel that as we go forward, this whole contactless thing in all aspects of life is actually going to be more driving force. And hence we looked at global card business. So now we basically then launch Equitas. One of the feature on the Equitas is also going to be basically you're going to enjoy the zero forex markup at that. But then, the key difference between a global card product and an NeoX is that, you could digitally sign up, instant onboarding is there. There will be video KYC solutions also built in. So then those solutions actually, provide you a contactless kind of experience, onboarding experience, and, on continued journey with the product. So those are the few things that we did, Madhu. And of course, those 3-4 initial months, April, June, May, June, July were kind of, all of us were looking down the barrel and so on and so forth. But I think, it was more to do with, look, this is not that we could have control. Thankfully, we had planned for it in some sense. And then we were able to, as a team, we were able to show the resilience to turn around the business models and, come back strong. Our revenues, are back to pre-pandemic level. We have a new business line, kind of. So, all said and done, we would probably in 2-3 years from now, we will look at this as more as a inflection point in our journey.
Fantastic, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I know, all powers to you and the team. Actually, you're one of the rare companies where you also work directly with banks in some ways, in some of your products, like the Equitas as a partnership as an example, as well as sort of you leverage our capabilities and API in some of the other banks. Have you seen any sort of difference? And is there like, a lot of people ask us, as you guys as a company, if there are bank pipes directly available, why would somebody sort of come, and work with you, right? So that's a question even I'm sort of puzzled at times, but I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, Madhu. So, I think there are two aspects to when you look at a bank relationship, right? I mean, there is obviously the business side of it that you will need to facilitate, unless you have something like a master program manager kind of setup available, in which, but those kind of programs are also available, but more in the prepaid segment, but not so sure about, in the, like a full-fledged bank account. So nonetheless, you still have to engage with a directly bank from a business perspective. I think what is happening is that now more and more banks are now opening up their API infrastructures, and not many are connected to platform like yourself today. and then what happens is that purely from our perspective, it is more of a, I think the currency we are bidding for or fighting for actually is the time. So speed to market matters to us. So in that sense, when we look up at a potential partner bank and they have a direct APIs available to us, we definitely take a look at those APIs and then quickly evaluate whether a customer journey can be made on top of this. And if not, and if they have partnered with like a player like yourself, then it's great. Which is what we are doing, and hopefully we'll reveal that product in some time with you. So I think it's par for the course kind of thing, and we take each relationship as it comes, Madhu. But I think purely speaking on our behalf as a business entity here, I think we will look at business engagement. Definitely needs to be done directly with the bank. And I would recommend you to take a look at the API infrastructure available at the bank and to see the robustness of it. And if you find that, in your judgment, if you find it, look, the same robustness can be obtained by leveraging a partner who has done the hard work like what you have, I would rather advocate to go through a partner.
Sure. Fantastic. Anything that you would like to, so also we get asked this question, which we kind of today have like a templated sort of response, but you have done that, in terms of who is the right partner bank in some ways, right? So, there is no short answer. I don't want you to name any particular bank, but a lot of founders come and ask us, should I work with this bank or that bank? And last year we had like an unfortunate event with Yes Bank. A lot of disruption that happened to the larger startup ecosystem. So we sort of kind of actively do more than one bank for every fintech now, right? So that risk, even at a board level, investor level, when there are questions getting asked, we try to sort of assuage that. But generally speaking, and this is more seeking sort of in terms of how bankers' mindset has changed. Therefore, like, when we started out, you said clearly 5 years back, it was resistance, which is now they are and actually sort of opened up their arms and saying, come work with us. Is there like a template you would suggest to a early stage company, right? So like when I'm just starting up, would you advise them to look at a smaller bank so that they can build that product, go to market faster, or do the hard work in terms of working with a large bank? Like, what would be your take on that?
Yeah, I think it really depends as a entrepreneur, as an idea. What are you planning, on that, and how which part of your idea is really about customer journey. If it leans too much heavily, like what in our case does, which is largely we are basically what consumer experience is, right? Then more or less you're going to have those difficult conversations with the bank, who's customer, data sharing, information security, and you have to, beyond this decision, you have to also have the backend metal to basically prove that the data is safe, the journeys are safe. There's a lot of investment that goes into those aspects, which is basically, I would say, required, but they are non-directly, value creating or value addition to the customer. So if you, from that perspective, I would really, see that even in today's, as much as I speak, that world has changed. I think smaller bank, mid-sized bank are more receptive to the idea, as opposed to large private banks as well as the PSU banks. So that's been largely one thing that I can say. But then if you look at ideas which are which are more thought through, and for someone like let's say in your case at Yap platform, you guys have already done integrations on prepaid side with a bunch of banks out there, right? So, and then if my idea is on leveraging a prepaid platform, I would rather then advise anyone to go and speak to you guys and basically get going, because that just enables a faster speed to market. A lot of templatization has already been done, reporting, fiduciary reporting, all that KYC and everything kind of gets taken care of. So it gives as an entity all the time for you to innovate on what you really stand for and what value you will add in the whole value chain, right? So that's there. On the, not just on retail side, on the corporate banking side, there are a few solutions which are available, from large banks, which are, templatized to that extent. So if you would like to basically have an idea on the corporate banking side, possibly talk to one of these banks. But if it's going to one of a kind, new idea, path-breaking idea, more often than not, you will find small banks more receptive.
Understood. I'm sure you're drawing from your experience of working in small bank and really disrupting the market, right? Yeah, one or two last questions.
It's been right, as much as they need us, as much as we need them, or they also need us. And I mean, it's a partnership equality, if I may say. And hopefully, when your idea succeeds, both you stand to win, and as well as the partner bank stands to win. And it comes back to this old mentality of not a zero-sum game.
Absolutely. In fact, I often say this, that we are in the third wave of banking in India. The first wave, like if I just put a time chart to it, between 2000 and 2010, the whole effort was branches, right? Even RBI said open next branches in rural areas. Over the last decade, we have had this alternate channel grow, right? Whether it's banks own mobile banking, internet banking, or things like Paisa Bazaar and the platform play that fintechs, early fintechs sort of brought in. Now it's all about embedding it into storefronts, which is like brands like yours, right? So effectively, the bank becomes the custodian of that regulated product. But however well and much you can innovate on top of it, it is left to sort of players like you and need to sort of come and do it, right?
Yeah.
In this journey, obviously we are slightly ahead of the game in terms of being there, because we are left with no choice but to sort of innovate. But when you really sort of look at it from bank, oftentimes we actually struggle. The tech stacks have got in silos, right? Like CBS came in 10 years back, a credit card could be 5 years back, UPI came 3 years back. So there is often this challenge of bringing all of this technology layers together, right? Which is not the case in some of your earlier like in a Make My Trip, the whole OTA business used to run in one.
Right.
It had its own efficiency, but the complexity in dealing this whole tech stack and how you will work with the bank is actually really complex, and it doesn't look that complex from the outside, right? And therefore, even today, a lot of complaints that you receive on like UPI, I tried something on Google Pay or some other brand for that matter. You don't know where the transaction actually dropped, right? As a user. So therefore, there is always this aspect that gets sort of asked to us in terms of how much of this legacy tech is, scalable. If the NeoX becomes like a 50 million account base. Will the underlying bank, not any particular bank, generally speaking, is bank infrastructure capable to do it, right?
Yeah.
And we have been sort of saying, it's always the case that nobody builds on day zero to start with 50 million users, and people sort of figure it out to sort of scale it. Are you seeing any kind of scalability challenges when you work with banks, or are you proactively engaging with banks to address that, and how do you go about doing it?
Yeah. So I think yes, you kind of nailed the problem there, and part of the journey on the time scale that you're putting up, that's actually part of the problem. Because what happened in basically first decade of the century is that CBS was designed for basically branch banking, so that you can walk into basically any branch and get your business done. It was not designed for internet. And then internet was more of a sticker on top of it, and to the extent possible, right, just try to basically give the access to the customer's account and then play around with it. While it had its own but all good things basically come to an end till the time market demands something. So when the I think one of the top 3 players, I won't name them, on the UPI stack, when they came online, the banks really servers were getting fried.
Right.
And I know this from I think a personal story that was told to me is that these guys were just sitting out of their offices just to basically get things going, and then now we have a multi-bank PSP model in play, which is actually specifically so the thing, the moral of the story is that I think there is a lot of pent-up demand as far as mobile-led banking is concerned. Players like Neo are coming to the party some to this extent, I think somewhat late already, and consumer just there is not, I mean, we can't work in internally when we look at, okay, can we just operate in Bangalore for next 6 months? That's actually not even a possibility. There is we'll end up building so many gates, so many walls, so many features to just control that only people from Bangalore are actually and obviously we want to maintain a good rating and stuff like that. We have no choice but to quickly go spread out pan India and serve customers from wherever they come. But that has its own share of challenges. So I think what it needs to happen is that, and there also I think your decision of which bank to work with actually plays out a lot. And that is where I think the technology people they need to really almost like forecast what's going to happen, and to that extent, then make a choice between bank A and bank B, which one is probably better one to work with. Given all things being equal, I would rather work with a bank where I've heard some leverage, and I know that they have in-house tech. To some extent, they are supportive of what you want to do, and by and largely understand that, look, if this thing is going to be basically 10x in 2 months and possibly 100x in a year, then we will have to basically re-architect everything. And
Right.
so long as that mentality and then is concerned, I think you should partner with those. But I think irrespective of what you do today, both on ecosystem that you deploy on your end and system that you deploy at your partner bank's end, good problem. Scale is a good problem to have, and I think both parties need to then come up to the table in terms of investments, etc. are required. Completely different. We have to re-architect everything. You can't imagine. Okay, let me put a few more servers. That doesn't take care of it.
Take care of it. Absolutely. You sort of hit the nail on its head. I think UPI in some way actually sort of exposed the inefficiency more blatantly, right? So otherwise it would have been in closed walls. You would have been sending emails to fix it, and
Yes.
I think we should thank the UPI team for it. I think we are out of time. We had like a great the journey that you've sort of gone through. Half an hour may not do justice to it. There's a lot of things that we could, draw from your experience of working with the banks and how you're at the forefront of embedding, financial services and actually driving the whole experience layer. I think you've been doing neo banking even before, starting with your name, even before neo banking became a, sort of buzzword, so to speak, right? More power to you, Viren. Wonderful having you on the show today.
Yeah.
Vaishali, if you want to add something, and maybe we can wrap it up.
Actually, Madhu, I would just like to add one more piece of advice since this. I think you are targeting this toward budding entrepreneurs. I mean, I think I don't know. I hope you realize this, but I think you never speak of that. At Neo we always speak of that. Vinay and I are a terrific combination in the sense that I look at tech and I can scale systems, I can build systems. But Vinay is a tremendous his background is banking. And
Right.
like if I look at your end, you guys actually also have a fair mix of you guys kind of complement each other's skills, which is also required actually, by the way. I know of actually, Madhu, many brilliant people, both techies, both product. They are very I would say difficult for them to find their feet. Difficult to get the first meetings. So if you are looking to start up something on the fintech, my advice to you and the founding team, take care of do have someone who can actually open doors for you as far as banking is concerned.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's a very important advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so it has been a very wholesome session, and I thank both of you to actually take out time from your busy schedules and make it happen. And Virender, special thanks to you. So Neo has been the first client or partner, we can say, who with whom we have started doing such sessions, and I'm so happy that you accepted our offer and you are there on this call.
You're always happy to be, Madhu and us, we go long back. So happy to be, partnering here. And I don't say this word because I need to say that. I really mean, I think all of the things that Madhu has done for Neo, all the success that Neo is enjoying today couldn't have been possible for partners like, Madhu at YAP and all the partner banks. We just stand here and possibly collect all the laurels, if you will. But I think really platforms like you, Madhu, and all the partner banks, you guys are doing all the hard work.
Yeah. Thanks, Viren. Thanks so much. I think wonderful session. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Take care, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks, Viren. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Viren. Happy Holi.